Gabriel. It's basically my author name, and well, I know most people have a surname as well, but I have actually chosen to not do that because of
You're
personal
going the way
reasons
of
and stuff.
Prince. You're going the way of Prince.
Yes, yes, essentially. Just a pseudonym, basically. But it is actually my second name in real life as well, so
Okay.
I feel personally attached to it.
Tell me about your fiction. What do you write?
Oh, I'm writing contemporary fantasy.
Okay.
Basically, I love the idea of fantasy in itself, of having stories that are not grounded in the natural setting that we have, but also I love the idea of it happening right now and not in the medieval settings. High fantasy is something that I like reading about, but don't like crafting myself. Contemporary fantasy is so interesting because you can have all these possibilities of technology that you don't have in the medieval times and stuff. Well, right here.
Right.
so,
I love the
right.
Dresden Files. The Dresden Files is probably my favorite series of novels.
Yes. Yes, I can imagine. It's a great balance that they strike with that, and I respect that a lot too.
What do you read in German, or are you German yourself? What's your nationality? I think
Yes, yes,
he's German. Okay.
I'm German. I'm German, and I actually read a lot of English stuff. I
Uh-huh.
try to read more English than German because I want to, well, become better in the language that I aspire to
Sure.
talk and write in. um,
I took German in
yeah.
college. I love the language. It's
Oh,
incredibly difficult. Like,
yes, yes,
I mean, there's no way that I'm
100%.
going to try to communicate with you on any level whatsoever. I can say I'm Bishin, and I can probably count to 10, and I'll mess it up. That's how good my education was.
You know,
In fact, I'll tell you a story. My freshman year, I got my first 3 credits in the language. I transferred
mm,
to another school, and they refused to take it. So I decided that I would try to opt out of it by testing, and I just lucked into taking the test with a German speaker and didn't have
mm.
to finish my education. So I'm working on 3 credits of German here. And it's fascinating. So you write and you read in English.
Yes, 100%. I really try to get as much out of it as possible. I actually also
It's crazy.
talk English with my friends. It's kind of interesting, but some of my
Interesting.
friends are multinational. Some of them
Huh.
come from Romania, one comes
Oh,
from
I
Thailand.
gotcha. How
Yeah, right.
fascinating.
And
How
and
fascinating. I never thought about, I mean, I have. Germany's a very diverse place now, isn't it?
yes,
You have the
100%.
refugees and things like that. Do you get to interact with the refugees, or is it primarily just other European nationals that you congregate with?
Primarily, I deal with European nationals, but
Europeans,
due
okay.
to the fact that I live in a city where there's a lot of technical stuff, so it's a
Gotcha.
student city basically,
Uh-huh.
and it's got a big focus on technical stuff. You have a lot of people coming from the Asian regions
Oh,
to this
cool.
place, so you have about what 35% of students who are Asian and are struggling with German as well, which is totally
That's awesome.
understandable. I'm not faulting them for that. So it is very common that you get to these people, start talking English, and they will respond in perfect English
That's
back, and that's how you
fascinating.
communicate. Yeah,
Dude,
it's
English is
crazy
the great
actually.
unifier. My God. I mean, it's the same here
Yeah,
too, right? But we speak English, but I can't approach, anybody basically
uh,
and speak this language, this
yeah.
gateway. It limits you though, man. I don't know. A lot of English speakers say that it's hard to pick up other languages. How many do you know? Like altogether, English, German,
Well,
and
well, I do know French. I have
French.
learned French for like 6 years in high school, but let me tell you, I am not the best at it. I am not very proud of the grades that I've gotten, and I might have slipped class a couple of times, but
It's okay.
with what I know,
I
I
just I
guess you
just
can
admitted
call
to
it.
cheating on a college test. So I mean, like I care. So you can speak some French. You can get by
Yeah,
on the
just
streets.
about. If someone placed me in the middle of France, I would probably make it home, but that's about it.
I dated a girl from Finland who knew like 9 languages, probably for the
Oh,
exact same
oh,
reason that people you speak English. She goes all over the place.
yeah.
Her mom's a teacher, so she was like just surrounded by different people or people from
Mm.
different places. So I mean, tell me about like writing in English. Does that influence like what you're doing? Do you have to concentrate harder on developing the story?
Actually, This is really funny because I think it's easier for me. I have
Yeah.
a job in a tech magazine parallel
Yeah.
to what I'm doing in
Oh,
creative writing,
okay.
which is actually in German. So I found like a quite a nice balance where I write in German about like I write 1 or 2 articles a day,
Yeah.
depending on what happens on Apple News, whatever the hell.
Gotcha.
And when I get bored of that, when I feel like, okay, I kind of exhausted myself on that front, I go to my draft, which is completely in English, and just let the creative juices flow, which works perfectly because you're already warmed up from what you have written in German, and then you get into this new kind of. It's like it's like this phenomenon when you go to a bar and you drink beer and then you drink something else and then you get back to beer. You can drink more beer than you could have if you just stayed with beer. You know?
I am not a drinker, unfortunately. I drink a few beers
Neither
and
do
I'm
I.
under the table. Okay. I'm
Neither
unfortunately I
do I.
do
But
I abuse it. It's like one of those hangover situations in the morning. Just it's awful. It's
mm,
awful.
oh yeah,
But
I
I mean,
understand very much.
if I go to Germany, I have to do the beer though. It's one of those things, right?
Yes, I mean we have the quality goods over here, you could say.
Right.
It's
So hey,
always funny. Oh,
why
sorry.
fantasy? Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
no,
I,
it's always funny whenever I hang out with friends. It's always the same situation in the supermarket, standing in front of the fridge, being like, "Guys, what are we gonna get?" And everybody has a different opinion.
well, there's lots of options too. I think I watched a YouTube video where a beer salesman or the marketer guy just had
uh,
there's so much from all over the place. It's
yeah,
daunting.
yeah,
The
absolutely.
options
And
that
then
you
we
have
have imported beer as well.
exactly from really good places, like
Yeah.
from places that know how to make beer. We don't have that option here. We have microbrewers, and they're all IPAs, and they taste like either grapefruit or a skunk. There's
mm,
very little in between there. I lived in Germany for a year when I was a kid in
mm.
right off the Rhine, but an hour east of Frankfurt. Loved it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's interesting. That must be somewhat in the middle of the country then.
it was, I guess. Wertheim was the name of the town the base was
Ah,
on.
okay. Don't know it by name, but especially that region is actually quite beautiful
Oh
because
yeah,
it's got a nice kind of split between nature and city in
that's what I
itself.
remember. Yeah, it was so beautiful. I really liked it a lot.
Yeah.
What part of the country are you in?
The very far west, the very far west. I'm not gonna say city names. I want to keep a bit of privacy, right?
Oh,
But
no, no, that's
the
fine. I
very
don't want to
far.
pry too much.
No,
And
no, of course.
I think it's cheese, right? Munster cheese. You guys are big into the cheese in that area of the country. Lots of
Oh
cows, I
yeah,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. It's also due to the fact that we're so close to the Netherlands, and I mean, if anyone's known for cheese, right?
Yeah, that's very
So
true. It's one of
yeah,
my favorite
it's
countries
kind
in
of
the
like a
world, too.
cultural cross.
Right, absolutely. Last time I was in Amsterdam, I thought about jumping on a train and heading over to Germany. I did not,
Mm,
but I thought about it. It's like, man, it's like an hour away. It's like a nothing trip.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's
crazy.
interesting to me that you went fantasy and not science fiction. Do you play with science fiction also in your writing, or are you primarily dealing with the? Oh, you do because of the contemporary aspects.
Yes, right. I was actually kind of surprised that so many reviewers that have read the book have called it science fiction because there's very little science fiction going on, I must say. They use smartphones because it's kind of a given in contemporary setting, like the really contemporary how we would live right now. But
Yeah,
apart from that, I've actually not focused on science fiction at all. I just tried telling a story that has this one side of a feral mindset, a feral-minded boy that kind of doesn't know how the world works, kind of comes from a place that deals with more fantastical things as you would imagine them in typical fantasy, and then he comes back to a world that is like ours, and he has to readjust. He has to completely learn how this world functions. So this was my main point in the story, not to have the whole science fiction aspect covered, but more like the how would someone react to our place right now if they came from a place that doesn't know how it works.
can you get into where he comes from, where this
Oh,
person's
right.
able to be feral and
Yes, I
interact
can
with
do
the
that.
modern world?
So most fantasy stories that deal with portal fantasy
Ah,
or just another realm, I see having. Well, of course, I can't talk for everyone. There are exceptions, of course, but usually the general outline goes that the people that are getting transported into a realm get transported, and then they have to adjust to this realm. It's got probably got some racist, fantastical stuff going on, magic, and in the overarching terms of the plot, they probably have to save the world at some point or do something that is really important in that. So
Right.
I went a bit of a different route. I had the main character and only the main character get into this realm completely by accident on age 8. So before that, he lived in our world and is normal little boy. And at age 8, he gets completely randomly transferred into this realm, and for the next 9 years, he just survives there. Mostly by sheer luck, some by his innate skill, but usually, or generally, he spends half of his year in this realm where no humans exist. It's just a savage kind of place. It is just surviving, looking how to best stay alive while protecting what you cherish. And then he gets the unique opportunity by like a traveler, let's just call it that, to get back. And he does want to get back because he lost his family. He was the only person that was ever transported here, as far as he knows. And he thinks to himself, okay, this is my chance to see the family again, to reconnect and see something that I never thought I would see again. But there's also problems with language, for example, because you have human language, but then you also have the language in this other realm, which isn't even a verbal language in itself. It gets explained in the book, but the power that he acquires during his stay in that realm, which is magical in itself, exists in our world as well, only very, very hidden. No one really knows about it. This also means that when he comes back, he can't really talk human language anymore. He kind of forgotten about it. It's like when you get back from a very, very long trip abroad, or maybe maybe even living somewhere for like 10 years, and then you come back and you have to readjust to everything. And especially for someone age 8 to now age 17, this is half of his life that he spent somewhere that humans don't even know about. So he has this feral mindset of I have to survive, I have to feed myself, and communicate with those that I find to not have to kill them. But still having to then go back to actual human language, to communications, to having to rely on people to find his family again, is such an interesting angle that I really wanted to explore it.
It's interesting to me because the portal aspect of it does ring science fiction, doesn't it?
Mm. Yeah,
That's
it does. Always does.
and it makes me think about the fact that Star Trek isn't science
Mm.
fiction; it's science
Mm.
fantasy. You know what I mean? You can't have an engine without it being scientifically combustion or whatever principles are at work there. And if you're going to have a contemporary fiction piece, that stuff is existing in your work, right?
Mm.
I don't know if you're writing by high fantasy. There's a lack of that technology
Yeah.
or even in the implementation of it. But you're actually putting that into play, whether it's our reality or another reality where you have to make an explanation for the magic. And that's the thing that I really find interesting is the explanation behind the magic,
Yes. Yes.
right?
100%.
So I mean, everybody talks about their mechanics, right? What are they? What's the actual
Mm.
word they use for the magic elements of that?
You mean Star Trek or in my work?
You know, your work, yeah. I mean,
Oh,
how does it work? I mean,
oh,
I
of
mean, I
course.
mean, I mean, not even you don't have to even go into the magic itself. I mean, just talk about how daunting it is. For me, anyway, it
Yes.
is. I
Yes.
mean, you really want to have it make sense, but you want it to be easy enough that
Yes.
you're not like drowning the reader in words and over explaining these
Exactly. And
very simple moments for me.
I Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the explanations to how the things are happening and how they can happen are such an integral and interesting part of not just the story, but like the concept in general that I really wanted to express it. There's the magic that the main character learns is called flow. It's kind of like it's based on a
Flow.
resource that humans technically possess. They can get aware of it. It's a really difficult process, but technically every human could get aware of it. It's kind of the basis of all life. And during basically the entire series, one focal point is how flow functions, how you can take this resource and shape it into something different, mold it into something that is unique to yourself. There are something called like flow styles, which
Yeah.
are essentially verbs. there's a flow style called envelop, which means that you use this flow style to use your resource and envelop this resource, or envelop something with this resource. There's a flow style called stream, which means that you use your resource and stream it away.
Did you
There's
did you have a hard time explaining it in the work itself? How did you like? How did the character introduce it to the reader?
Yes, this is definitely a critical point because, of course, there's 12 of these styles. There's 12 verbs that
Right?
are
I mean, that's
progressively more
I would imagine
specific.
that could be a novel all on its own. How do you describe 12 distinct styles? That's so
Yeah,
intriguing.
exactly. And that's why in book one, there was never a point where I just went full exposition mode and
Yeah,
just
right.
rattled down everything. It just kind of
Dangerous.
happened naturally. For the first half, the main character doesn't even completely know what this is. And by the second half, he gets behind it. People explain to him, hey, this is how it works. Um, we'll only tell you what you need to know for now because you're not professional enough to get at the
Yeah.
advanced stuff anyway. Because they have difficulty settings, you have to train yourself to get better at it, etc.
So
And in book
this is book
two,
one. This is the
yes,
first
right.
book out of how many books altogether do you think you're going to end up with? Do you have an idea?
Six.
Six. And
Current
you're
plan
on
is
book
six. Yes.
two is done and about to be
Yeah.
published. Yeah.
Well, it'll still take a while. I'm about 35% through the second draft of book
Uh-huh.
two, but consistent daily effort, it should very likely be done early next year.
But you're a professional writer right now, right? You're
Thank
actually
you very much.
developing you're developing content almost on a daily basis for
uh,
maybe not yourself, but for magazines and whatnot, right?
mm.
Were you at any time in your life writing fiction, or is this kind of your first big fictional work?
Yeah, this is interesting because I have been making fiction up since I can think. I've only ever done it for myself. I created stories as a child. Like,
So
I don't
cool.
know, I looked at Dragon Ball and I was like, okay, I'll do
Dragon
a,
Ball Z, is
fan
that the
fiction.
thing?
100%, of course. It's like,
It's very reminiscent of your art, isn't it? I was looking at your Instagram. That kind of
thank you very
has
much.
that Dragon Ball Z element to it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
I will admit that it and other series have very much shaped the way that I look at this kind of genre as well and how I want to portray it.
Mhm.
The art has actually been made by someone that makes Dragon Ball Z pictures as well. Really talented guy.
Well,
But
that's what I find fascinating is flow reminds me of like Tai Chi, and Dragon Ball Z is kind of
yeah,
a martial arts magnet. What
yes,
anime?
100%.
Anime. Yeah.
It's Dragon Ball Z has that element of ki implemented into it, but it never really deals with it to its intricacies. It just introduces it and goes like, okay, people are this strong, they can get this strong, they can do crazy stuff with it. The stronger you get, the
And I
crazier
was
the
thinking
stuff
about
is, and they just kind
chakras,
of do it.
like
Yeah,
chakras
exactly,
in Buddhism or whatnot. Yeah.
exactly.
I mean,
Which
I
is also
love the potential of humanity is limitless, right? I mean, you
yes,
can really
yes,
kind of think, and people kind of make excuses with DNA. You can rewrite
mm,
or whatnot, but I think spiritually you could reach deeper than that. People prove it.
yes,
I mean, there are Buddhist monks that can meditate themselves to death for
mm,
months, just let
yeah,
themselves melt into ceramic jars and be part of the architecture. I mean, it's
yeah.
magnificent what we can accomplish.
Good friend of mine is from Thailand, and he keeps telling me about these experiences he's had at Buddhist temples because his family is Buddhist, and
Mhm.
it also inspired my work. But it's also extremely interesting to just listen to the experiences that he's had. And he's not superior to anyone. He's still like a goofy kind of guy that you can hang out with, but he has really insightful things to say when he really gets down to it. Anyway,
Do you
Dragon
get
Ball.
into the meditation at all? At the
I
aspects
did
of
for
it?
a
Do you
while.
try? Did you? It's hard. It's really
Yes,
difficult.
Neon Red. I personally tried it for a long time. I then eventually figured out that running is more my thing, which is what
Running's
I'll
my thing
do.
too. I like
Hey,
it. That's a
perfect.
breathing thing. I love it. You get it just feels so meditative the rest of the day. I can't
Yes,
concentrate
it's.
enough. The funny thing is I can't concentrate enough to meditate. I know you're supposed to let
Mm,
yourself go, but I can't do it more than like 2 days in a row. But
yeah,
running, I like that. I've been doing that since I was a kid. It's
yeah.
easy.
I agree. It's I think I managed like one time to get half an hour of meditation in, but running I
Ooh,
can do.
half an
It
hour is a
really
long
feels
time.
like
I never
it
got past
only
10
worked
minutes.
once.
Only once. And I never
No
got
worries.
past 10 minutes though.
I can very much relate to that. But running is such a thing. You feel the freedom. You feel like you're
Yeah,
detaching yourself from the worries that you have. And when you get back, you still have those worries, of course. You have the problems, but they seem
yeah.
like you can conquer them. And
But
that's what I really like.
I like the idea of it always being a personal challenge because it sucks to
Yeah.
start, right? I mean, you
Yes.
probably hate it just as much as I do. As much as we
Mm,
enjoy finishing it, the idea of putting on your running sneakers, going down to the street, and doing that first mile is agony. But
yeah.
actually getting into it is fantastic, but whatever have
The
you. But
process. Yeah.
you're
It's not just the
battling
goal.
against
It's
everything. It's like golf, except
exactly.
you don't have clubs, and your knees hurt
Exactly.
all the time.
I think the process of it is extremely interesting as well because you have this constant uphill battle that you're climbing. But the more you do it, the more you realize, like, I can do this. I am strong enough to pull this off on a consistent basis. And the more I do it, the stronger I feel. And not just on a physical level, but also on a mental level. And this idea is also an integral part of the entire series because I,
Flow,
like you,
right? Flow,
yes,
because I
right.
mean, if
I
you do not continue to run, your flow is stagnated and you have to start over again. I mean, I'm really
exactly.
appreciating what you're getting into. That's just fantastic.
Thank you, thank you. It's because like you, I am a huge fan of the idea of the potential of humanity. That's why there are only two races in my entire series: humans and demons. The realm that the main character was transported into is called the demon realm. The human realm is just what we as humans, well, normal world basically. But that's why in book one, for example, we only ever deal with the demon realm in very vague terms and in recollections of stories. But physically, we stay in the human realm because humans are interesting enough for me to write about them solely. It's a metaphysical journey for all the characters involved to expand their powers, to get better at themselves, but to get better in flow and to manage their internal metaphysical resource. They also need to face themselves and their issues and look beyond the person that they were yesterday and become stronger while conquering challenges. It's a very mental thing and very personal as well. That's why aura is also or aura is called the resource. Sorry, the resource is called aura that way. And it's a very personalized thing. It's completely different for everybody, and everybody can do different things with them as long as they set their mind to it and delve into themselves. And I love this idea.
It's interesting because I picture the guy at the bar, he's been kind of getting
Uh,
drunk every
uh,
single night of his life since he was 13 years old. And he doesn't have access to it. And
30.
everybody around him does, I mean, he's like, oh, life sucks. I don't know what this stupid
Mm,
thing is you guys are doing. He's
mm,
drunk, frustrated. And he's the bad guy, what I mean? What do the demons do?
mm.
Do they prey on people like that, the weaker ones that aren't able to access, or
Oh, demons. Well, we will only get into them far later down the line, but generally demons are just savage creatures. Not all of them. Some of them are good-hearted, good-natured. That is one of the reasons why the main characters survive to begin with. But most of them are out to eat flesh, to survive, to
cannibalism? Or no, they're not
eat.
even human, are they? Different species
Yeah,
entirely.
exactly. It can be cannibalism. It can also be flesh of a human. That's why the main character had to defend himself. But it is a savage place with savage creatures. And over the course of the story, you understand why these creatures are the way that they are and how they came into existence parallel to humans, not as like a subordinate of humans or as a superior group above humans, but seriously as a parallel to them and how they are different yet the same. Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of
I
sounds kind
mean,
of weird to
I
say that, but
I appreciate that you have to put so much thought into what you're writing. I mean, it's a
thank you very
scene
much.
between. I mean, it's like if you've ever acted or been a part of theater, you have this idea of clashing, right? You have
Mm,
action, you have things that are going to be occurring on the stage. You're never going to
mm.
have somebody, unless you're Samuel Beckett, standing there staring at their navel for 30 minutes while the audience goes, okay, what's going to happen eventually? You always
Mm.
have movement. Watch a movie, you have movement and action.
Yes.
And around that movement and action, you have rules in place, right? I mean, it's impressive that while you're writing book one, book two is being developed in book three, and eventually
Mm.
somewhere down the line. I mean, you decided to indie publish, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A very difficult decision. I think,
Yeah, it is.
because right now I'm sitting on two novels that potentially I will publish, and I'm really scared to do it because once you decide
Mm,
that, that's it for those novels, right? You can't do
mm,
anything else with them. Have you
exactly.
did you try to do anything else, or tell me about your decision process in terms of going indie with this work that you've put a lot of thought into?
Mm. It's definitely never been, well, it's been in the back of my mind. You could try traditional publishing at some point, but generally, self-publishing was the way to go for me from the beginning because I wanted full creative control. I didn't care about the money or how well my books sold at the beginning. Of course, this is a bigger topic now, and you
You have
have
just as
it's
much possibility. I mean, I just read
yeah.
a quote about success in terms of publishing.
Uh,
Not, I'm just going to make this number up because it really doesn't matter. It's really ridiculously high.
mm,
99% of all books published fail, whether
yeah.
they're indie published or traditionally published. 99% of all books that ever make it out of the warehouse, nobody
Mm,
buys, nobody cares about them, nobody ever hears about them, nobody flips through their pages. They die completely. And the reason I mention that is that you have just as much of an opportunity as anybody else to be one of that 1%. I mean, it's so
yeah,
minuscule.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's also
There are indie published books that are successful all the time. They just don't make it
mm,
to the New York Times bestseller list. You know what I mean? Because they don't care.
yeah. I think one of the biggest parts of that, especially that statistic that you were talking about, is also that authors or new authors underestimate the power of marketing, and then they have to invest into that too. They don't just have to be good authors; they also have to know how to market to a specific niche audience that they want to reach. Because most people that publish a book are either completely happy with what they did and never touch it, or wonder why the hell Amazon doesn't get them better sales, and they diligently try
Amazon's not
to.
getting anybody's sales. Amazon doesn't care.
Yeah,
Amazon is a,
Amazon has their own stuff to worry about. If you're number 2 million on the book list, Amazon isn't gonna care for you.
well, I mean,
You
honestly,
really need to.
it's like saying Tide is upset with Amazon because nobody wants to buy their detergent. It's Tide's
Mm,
fault. You know, I mean, the Tide's a laundry detergent in the States. You know, if you're not buying Tide, then Tide's not doing a good enough job showing their product to you and selling it and
yeah,
whatnot. You
exactly,
know what I mean? That's what,
exactly.
you know, you
It's
can
of
read about
course.
marketing. And one of the things that we've already talked about is you decided not to go with Twitter.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, it's okay. I made mention of your decision not to go with Twitter. And
Twitter,
I'm
yes.
why not? Why don't you
Um,
like Twitter?
yes, of course. I just generally don't like Twitter in myself. I feel like Twitter is the social media that I've always been avoiding ever since I got into social media. I have had Facebook experiences, Instagram experiences, which I like the most because
Hmm.
it's very visually based. You look at it and you can take in something that someone put out rather quickly because it's just images, and you can comment on that, like it relatively quickly. There's nothing too wrong that you can do with it. If you have a consistent output of pictures, you will eventually, well, if you use the right hashtags and stuff, you will eventually attract a niche audience. If it's not big
If you
enough,
use
mine
the right
isn't even that big
hashtags
enough. It's like 450 followers so far, so there's a lot of room for improvement too. But
on
Twitter,
Instagram, right?
yeah,
Or
right, on
yeah,
Instagram.
Instagram's
But
interesting because a lot of people swear by it. Like a lot of people are
yeah,
saying that it's the future, but it's connected to Facebook, and Facebook makes me want to throw up.
yeah, I feel the same about Twitter actually. I'm not shit talking anybody on Twitter, obviously,
It's
but
not the people, it's the platform. I mean, it's
no, no,
interesting. Twitter,
exactly, exactly.
the people are. I mean,
Um,
you react to what you options you have, and Twitter's like
mm,
it's like a waterfall. You know, it's constantly just pouring,
yes, yes.
pouring. I mean, if you go on like a live Twitter thing, like I can't remember what it's called. There's one that you could use, and just watch these tweets come. They just
Mm,
fall out of every. They just disappear. It's like, my God, so much information just disappeared. But if you slow it
exactly.
down, it's interesting though, because I found you on
The
Reddit. Reddit's where I
mm,
discovered you. I think it was a science fiction writers
yeah,
forum,
exactly.
right? I've been
It was. I think it was
interesting.
general writing, but
Oh,
yeah, right.
general writing. Oh, okay. I was gonna say science fiction writing. Oh, you write. You
yeah, no
post in there.
worries.
Um, I mean, that's like the cesspool to some people. Reddit. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's like the worst place of the worst place.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment for most people to avoid that because Reddit is kind of a different place from the other social medias because it's more forum based and not like Twitter, where the effort that you have to put into a post to publish it is just a minute of typing something maximum, and then throwing in a hashtag there. That's also why I think people get rather upset about things you post really quickly on Twitter, which is also the reason why most of the what was it called? Shit, I really forgot. When something bad happens, when someone says something bad over the internet, Twitter is most often the social media that people criticize on the most. They attack the person the most. And
I know.
Instagram is
Viral.
rather calm in that.
Are you thinking about the word viral? Viral? You think something gets
Viral, right,
Yeah.
right. That was the word that I was searching for, actually. When something viral happens, Twitter is the place to go and to first be there and say something about it, because it doesn't take much to say
Really
something.
exciting, honestly. I had something hit the other day. I
Mm.
got like 251,000 people looking at something that I wrote.
Oh.
And it was
Okay.
kind of stunning what happened afterward. And it wasn't like everybody. It's just like all of a sudden all these likes, you know, boom, 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 and then retweets. And I got 5 or 6 people that trolled me. You know, they said the thing that got me to bite back. And then we got into this thing for a little bit. You know, Reddit did it to me back in the day too. I've been on there for a few years. How long have you been using Reddit?
I think 8 years now.
8 years. So you're back old school. So it's changed a lot since you started. Like back in the day, it was the old, like you could do anything on Reddit.
Interestingly enough, apart from a few subreddit bans that were done site-wide, I don't think too much changed. Like the standard mainstream subreddits r/gaming, r/askreddit, what was it? There's so many standard subreddits that have never really changed in their user base, but so many niche subreddits have emerged in that time that fulfill their purpose of you go there because you want to talk about a specific thing. And that's why I think targeted marketing, once you're past the general establishing yourself phase, targeted marketing is really interesting to do on Reddit, because you have these subreddits that are so niche that you can go there and say, hey guys, I know you, I have a thing that you may like, look at it, and you will get responses that are, well, some of them are, of course, Twitter, Instagram, they all have negative.
They either love you
depends.
or they hate you. If they hate you and they don't like what you're trying to say or what you're representing, you're going to feel it. But they like you. They might not even say anything to you, but you're going to get upvotes, you're going to get awards, you're going to get the views. And it's totally true. I wrote a Mr. Robot story about Bill Harper. And I wrote it a long time before the finale. But when the finale hit, I found an opportunity to post a link to that story and people came to my website. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, shit, there's ways to do this and not seem like an asshole with it. You know what I mean? You just look for opportunities to put yourself into the conversation. Drop down market.
And because it's such a niche approach, like the Mr. Robot subreddit, for example, people will also give you directed criticism. If they don't like something, it may have a good reason, because you're talking to your target audience here. If they say something bad about it, you can definitely learn from it. Some even give really good criticism, but if you know that it works, then it really works, because Reddit is a snowball effect incorporated. It's if you post something that really resonates with a community, Reddit rewards you with it, with publicity, because it's crazy how quickly
it's very interesting. And yeah, I respect Reddit. The community is just really, it's stellar there. I mean, you could just, you can troll things and just unexpectedly learn just really magical things. I mean, it's really interesting as well. Like you could get 5,000 upvotes on something, say, or gold or silver or whatever, and it doesn't feel as impressive as it does on Twitter. When I got that viral thing happening, it was scary. It was like, oh my God, 251,000 people just looked at my profile or whatever. But at the same time, when you get 5,000 upvotes on Reddit, those are just the people hitting the upvote. There are millions of people that could potentially have looked impressions on your thing, and you might not.
These are actually the people that like it, and that is impressive.
That's the non-lazy people. It's 5,000 non-lazy people. So I mean, they don't even let you know what the actual number of eyeballs that you're influencing might be on Reddit. It's kind of frustrating, but again, it's not as scary. I use Reddit a lot. I love it. I just post whatever I want.
Yeah, same.
As long as it's clean and concise and humorous, and I'm not trying to be an asshole. Or Will Wheaton's main rule is what I follow. Yeah, but it has changed. I mean, what happened is all became less dangerous, right? You would sort by all and new, and then, oh my God, what the hell am I looking at? just go anywhere.
Yes, just a constant stream of everything. But still, Reddit is slower than Twitter, I'd say, because Twitter is really just this violent mass of opinions, and really mostly opinions. Because on Reddit you have insightful research sometimes details that you missed about a certain series or something. But Twitter is just a constant stream of opinions and sometimes news flashes. But the fact that it's so built around opinions is the reason why I personally don't like Twitter that much. And I think Instagram, personally for me, is a better way of conveying what I want to convey.
It doesn't give you much of an opportunity to get adjusted if you have a bad opinion. You know what I mean? If you're coming into something with misguided
you get slapped.
intentions, you get slapped, you get knocked down, you get mad, and 100%. You're not going to necessarily want to change your mindset. On Reddit, though, if you come into things with them, you're still going to get slapped down. But you might have an opportunity to look at other people's responses and learn something. I don't know. What I find really interesting about Instagram, though, is it almost feels like they want to throw followers at you. You know what I mean? Make you interested in maybe you're doing the right thing there. And it's connected to Facebook. And I just don't trust Zuckerberg. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't, but we only have so many options. And I feel like I've been on Instagram far before I've done my offer stuff, and I've already kind of committed to using it because I feel like using it is a rather intuitive experience. You get behind it rather quickly, and you can make use of hashtags and stuff rather quickly. That's also why when you have the right hashtags, I've recently tried experimenting a bit, seeing what effect they have, and just a couple of changes in what you put as hashtags, because they show the hashtags that you choose are the channels that you get seen in. So just tweaking that a bit, like 1 or 2 has gotten me double the impressions, which is crazy.
Oh, they're showing you impressions too. Interactions, what do you think the percentage on that is? Like impressions of 1,000 versus likes and comments, shares, or whatever.
1,000 in percentage, I'd say, well, definitely below 10%, because
10%.
that
good,
is, though. Yeah, it's I'd say below, because I usually don't get that many interactions. Like on this level, 10% is already a lot. I feel like advertising, because I've done that recently, advertising has also brought me incredible numbers of interactions.
Advertising, interesting.
Yes, it's almost 10%, I'd say. And that is incredible to think about on Instagram. And I didn't even spend that much money on it.
Have you ever advertised on Reddit?
No, not on Reddit yet. No, I've heard about it. I'd like to try it, especially since, Reddit is such a snowball effect platform, as I recently said. But I tried on Instagram already, and the amount impressions versus interactions has come close to 10% for me, which is, in my eyes, pretty crazy.
So, I mean, so you are you. We are maintaining privacy. But in terms of the account that we connected on, that's a brand new account, and you're keeping yourself away from this, or have you never kind of interacted with Reddit before you made this account? I mean, basically, I guess my question is not to pry personally, but would you think that having more of your established personality on Reddit and then going forward with your novels work better than starting fresh like this? Because obviously I'm using my main account where I have all my build up to market my stuff. Yeah, right. I have it to market right now.
I think okay, good. I think it makes a difference. It makes a definite difference on pages like Instagram, where you have followers that actively see everything you post. On Reddit, I think it is a bit of a different kind of worms, because for example, I have a private account that I have been using for 8 years now, which has accumulated amount of karma, but still no one really interacts with me because it's a private account, and I just comment every now and then and just kind of let it naturally raise. While having a new account on Reddit doesn't really make much of a difference, because people see the post and they don't, unless it's like a popular person, they will not look at the username and go, oh, okay, this is from that one guy.
I've got like 13 followers on Reddit. I think they're all my mom.
Exactly.
Might be my mom and my grandma.
I have to say, but it's more anonymous than any other social media I know, and that's
true.
Especially for the snowball effect, a great idea. a great fact. But on Instagram, for example, I would definitely agree. If I used my personal and tried building from that, I probably would have gotten a bit of a higher number that I have right now. But I like the idea of staying a little bit of a mystery very much. I don't know. I'm into that. So just keeping up with that image and also having people guess like, okay, who is this guy that's behind this? I know a couple of things about him, but he's not like most authors, as in he's completely open about himself, showing everybody, hey, this is my name, I am this great author. And I mean, Gabriel is part of my name, but I I just have this kind of tendency to be more on the private side, and I
I
don't
would
think
recommend it. I mean,
it's
honestly, there's a you
yeah.
that is
Mm,
connected to things that doctors would know, and then there's the you that you want to face your friends with.
exactly,
You know what I mean? When you
exactly.
shake hands with your buddy in the morning, you're not going to tell him, yeah, man, I got a polyp on my spleen, and man, I got to pee. No, you're going to say, I'm doing good. So you're doing good.
Yeah.
You're Gabriel. You're doing good. I'm Bryan Aiello. I'm doing good. I might have a polyp on my spleen, but I'm not going to even know what it is. You don't need to know that
Yeah,
stuff.
right. The followers don't have to know that.
There's only certain people that need to know all the information, and you can probably find it, but it's boring. It's human stuff. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing about this whole privacy conversation, right? I mean, in terms of what actually is out there, is this gross
Mm,
thing called human. I read
yes.
something about the smell of the human body that our skin keeps on the inside. I thought that was fascinating because we all stink and we all kind of have the same kind of uh, greed and
Mm,
jealousies, and we want to
yeah.
feel filled and warm and comfortable. And
Mm,
it's boring in a way. It's just really, really boring, except what we create, because what we create is what advances us and makes things better. It makes us more
exactly.
comfortable. That's the
Yeah.
most important part. And that's the thing that we should be sharing. That's what
I
you're sharing.
agree.
That's what I'm trying to share with
I've I've always committed to this idea in my mind, and it kind of soothes me knowing that every human is just a pile of flesh and bones. And while we can do great things with these piles of flesh and bones, nobody is inherently more worth than you are. You
I
can
mean, you do
create
have Scarlett
something.
Johansson, and then
Well, I mean, yeah, of
there's
course,
some
you have these
greatality
kind of
there.
outliers.
There's some greatality there. I mean, I'm not going to
Of
deny.
course.
I'm not going to. I fall in the 5'6" range, 4'5", on a good day, whatever have you. But there's
Right.
people like Scarlett Johansson out there that just really just make life worth living. I mean, right, Van Gogh isn't a
Exactly.
special, special person. When you see
There
a
are
Van
more
Gogh, you're like,
beautiful piles
yeah,
of flesh.
they do more beautiful things. They are more beautiful. They perform more beautifully. But I mean, as a person, you strive for that. You're doing it in your fiction with the characters that you're
Yeah,
writing. They're
exactly.
striving
But
for
to
something
get
more.
and to get back to your point of the potential of humanity, just knowing that you can do these beautiful things even with what you are given, this is just such a great thought to
Appreciate it
me. And
or
trying
appreciate
to
it,
explore that.
right? You try
Yeah.
to make this thing. How about pirouetting? Right? Have you ever been to the ballet? I don't know what the verb tense for pirouetting is, but if you try to do a pirouette right now where you are, you'll probably hurt yourself. But
Yeah,
there's a person out
100%.
there that can do one that's going to blow you away and tell a story at
Mm,
the same time and be more graceful and beautiful than anything you've ever seen. I mean, it's so worth it to be aware of it that you can't do
mm.
it and to fall down. Did you do athletics in school? I mean, I don't know where you're from. Are you from Germany originally?
Yeah, I'm originally from Germany. I never got into athletics. I recently got into running, and I try doing it on a semi-daily basis. But um, actually, I have been a very motorically undefined person. People kept telling me that I'm shit at sports.
When I lived in Germany, it seemed all the German people were very athletic. It's like
Yes, they
naturally
are.
gifted or something. But I mean, as an athlete, you learn like physical limitations. I mean, that's like the definition of life. Hurting
Mm,
yourself, finding out exactly what it's like to drop something on your foot and how to respect gravity. These
exactly.
influences, how do you go through the rest of your existence? Um, where are you on book two now? Are you close to publishing it in terms of like limitations in life? I just finished a rewrite. I want it to be done so bad, and I know
All right.
I'm looking at an editorial, like 1,000 edits I have to do on this dumb document.
Uh,
I hate my life right now. But anyway, how long
oh,
do you
oh
think on
yeah.
book two?
Well, the thing is, at this point, I know the exact plan that is going to happen. It's going to be basically like book one, just a bit more refined. I have a very nice four draft structure. The first, so many people, if they looked at my first draft, they would say this is not a first draft. And I can't blame them because my first draft is a mishmash of prose, of concepts, of character memos, of ideas, of kind of little things that I tell myself to know how to progress the stories, of explanations. It's just a mishmash of everything, but it works perfectly for me. I am a born chaotic. And looking at this and then going to the second draft and rephrasing it all in prose is the perfect pace for me. And it's worked out perfectly. I am at, like I said, about 30% through the second draft. So almost at the halfway point of book two, of just putting everything in prose. And then third draft and fourth draft are just redefining, finding what is bothering me, sentences don't flow correctly or something. My oldest friend is also my editor, and he's also been the editor for book one, and he never shies away from telling me when things don't work, when things are bullshit and have no flow. And I love hearing about that because I know that I don't have to worry about it right now. I can
That's the
just work
second
on
part
the
of that.
second draft.
Having
Yeah,
somebody to
exactly.
tell you and then appreciating that you get to hear that there's something wrong that you get to
Yes.
fix. You know, not
Yes,
knowing there's a mistake or a problem is just so crucial.
I really try to make a focus on taking criticism and learning from it, even if it's shit criticism sometimes. Don't worry about it. Just take what you can learn and ingrain it in your work. And third draft and
Smile.
fourth draft,
That
yes.
critiquer might have had a bad day. You know, I've had a bad day.
Yes,
You know, you have a hard
exactly.
time reading.
Human influences.
Yeah. The
It's
second time
it's
I
just
go through
sometimes
it,
like that.
I might understand it better. Or you might get upset and say, I don't think you were paying attention. And then I'll go, okay, let me try.
Yeah.
I've had people burn the bridge completely over a piece of writing. It's like, oh man, that's not worth it.
Yes, don't take it personally. Is my personal stance on this. I will just really try to get into what I can take away from this, and the rest I'll just leave and be like, okay, that is your opinion, man. That is fine. I don't agree with it, but it's fine. I will fix this in the third and fourth draft, and then go ahead with it anyway. So really, at this point, for me, it's just playing the waiting game with effort. Really, just looking to fulfill my kind of ratio of words I want to put out on a daily basis, because I really do put this on a daily basis. I have been doing it for the last 500 days, and I don't have any intent on stopping because it's a great way of keeping up the momentum. So at this point, I'm just like,
So that's the runner
January,
mentality.
February.
That's the runner in you. It's like you don't want to stop because
Yes,
then you have to start over again.
yes,
I'm like that right now.
100%.
I'm like that right now. I've stopped running for a period of like the quarantine was horrible. It just really sucked.
Yeah,
Getting motivated
I
was just the
agree.
word. I knew I was in the East Village too, and everything was falling apart. My dog didn't want to run
Mm.
outside, and like
Oh my
just
God.
the worst situation on the face of the planet. So anyway, I'm out of shape. My ankle swollen, my knee hurts. I have to do it like every day and just have to go through this pain. And once you get
Mm.
back up to 6 or 7 miles, like I don't ever want to stop because no matter how bad it hurts, I'm gonna have to start over again.
Yes, and you feel the progress that you're making. It hurts,
Yeah.
but this pain is like the reinforcement of, yes, what you're doing is having an effect. It hurts and it sucks, but at some point it's going to fade and it makes a difference. You feel it right now. It's pain, but it makes a difference.
Just out of curiosity, what's your daily goal in terms of word count?
Um, I want to get finished with the second draft by December, January latest. So I'm trying to get out 750 words per day at
Oh,
least. But
okay. That's
sometimes,
manageable. That's doable. That's real
yeah,
doable.
yeah, I think
But
so
these are all
too. It's
fresh words, though, right? Like when you finish writing, are you picking up in the middle of a chapter and going, okay, I need to rewrite this whole chapter and start over and
I,
blah, blah, blah. And then that's your 750 words? Or are you like, word one, chapter 12?
oh, really, I just don't try to focus on words at all. I just really try to focus on the scenario, what is happening right now. I sometimes leave things in the middle of a dialogue just so I can bet back on the next day and know, okay, I don't have to draft a completely new scene right now. I already have the scene that I go off. It makes beginning much easier. So I just do it and go by and get into the situation. Sometimes get bothered by my friends who ask me if I want another coffee because I do it in a cafe very often. But most of the time, I just do it. After 2 hours, I look back, highlight all the words that I've done, and Scrivener tells me, hey, you've done 1,000 words today. And I'm like, great, let me look over them. I want to see what I wrote. And then I look over them, see like, okay, I like this part. I feel like this is a bit icky. Sometimes I directly think of an edit that I can do, just put that out there. If it's too big to be edited right now, I'll leave it for the third draft. And then I'll just keep on going, keeping up the momentum.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I'm the complete opposite.
Uh-huh.
The complete opposite. I don't even, I've mentioned this before. It's like there's a Japanese artistic style where you take something broken and then fuse it back together again. And I'm like,
Yes.
Do you know what it's called? That doesn't matter. But that's what my writing's like. It's this thing that kind of grows into something bigger
Mm.
from mistake after mistake after mistake after
Mm.
mistake until I finally have a finished draft. So it's interesting that you have a stream of consciousness writing style that just starts from the beginning and you kind of
That's
bulldoze your way through the creative process.
that's really interesting because it's a deep difference between me and my editor. We are about the same age. He has a completely different mindset while writing. For example, I write fantasy. He writes transgressive literature, which is some of the darkest shit I've seen so far. And
Is he
he
writing
gets
German or
bothered.
English? Is he an English writer
Also
or
English, also English.
okay?
He's
So
actually
interesting.
Turkish, moved to Germany when he was 12, learned German, then learned English, now learning Czech and French and speaking it all in his university. It's crazy. This guy knows so much. I'm grateful to have him as an editor and as
Interesting.
a
Is
concept.
what language do they speak in Turkey? Is it Arabic? What is it? What
It's
is it?
Turkish.
Or is it Turkish? I was going to say
Yes.
Turkish. That sounded so ridiculous to say that they spoke Turkish
Yeah,
for a
no, I
second.
know. It's you have that sometimes where you're at seeing at a country and you're like, oh yeah, they speak Polish, right? Yeah, no, but he has a completely different style of writing. He gets bothered by his ideas. It's a passive gathering of ideas for him. It's like he goes through his day, does his studies, and then he gets back at the end of the day and just has to get it out, or
Interesting.
it will bother him to no end. And I don't have that. I have active storytelling. I sit
Me
down and
too.
then I do it as I write.
Yeah,
It's crazy how
it's
different we
never
are.
like a thing that just stream of
Yeah.
consciousness. Me, I'm totally all like, oh God, I got to get that black hole story worked on, man. I want to finish that thing and try to get it published. And yeah, I'm
Mm,
totally the same way. I'm concept oriented
yeah.
every single time I put paper.
Exactly.
So you are in a world, and that is all you're writing about. Do you find yourself doing other stuff, writing other concepts, working on other novels, or is this the only thing you got in terms of
Oh yeah.
ideas?
Um, well, Neon Red and its completion is my definite end goal for the next like 4 or 5 years.
So
Currently,
fascinating to
my
me. That's another difference
uh,
between me and you, is that I am
thank you.
like, I've got like, I am not, I'm writing a series, right? But it's
Mm,
not really a series. It's just something that's happening along the course of one person's life. So I've decided
mm,
that I can take a bunch of short stories and glue them together and make a bunch of novels and then edit the crap out of that, like I explained
mm.
with that art piece, to make a cohesive novel or two or three or four.
Yeah,
So you know,
but I
it's
mean that
just
is a very legitimate way of creating a series too. If you just want to explore this character's life, then I think this is a perfectly valid way.
right. I mean, it's fascinating how we're putting stuff out there. Um,
Yes, no, but
I lost my train of thought. What else?
no worries. I was just gonna say, so Neon Red in its 6 books, that's my main goal for the next 4 or 5 years. But
Okay.
next to
Okay.
that, mid-tier goal is to finish Neon Red's second book, get it out there, because then you have a series. You don't just have one book; you have a series that you can already present to people. Be like, yes, I'm going to finish this. I have a finished product. You can already look at it. You can already continue reading it after the first book. Right now, I'm going to finish on smaller projects. And that is what I'm going to do once I finish book 2. I'm just going to take a couple of months' time to just put out ideas that I've had boiling in the back of my head. Really just little short stories. Like recently I started drafting like this little short story about a dream that I had driving through rural America, picking up like a female hitchhiker and becoming really good friends with her and having this like unique journey that you never have with another person in your life again. And then looking back on it like 37 years later and being like, this was so unique and it changed my life despite the fact that it was only a few weeks. It's just a dream that I had and I want to write about it, but this is one of the things that I'd like to do when book 2 is done. And when I've exhausted my creative fluids, then I'll go back to book 3 and be like, yeah, it's time again. Let's do this.
Why wait though? You should have like 25 novels being developed like I do. It's completely crazy. I mean,
It's
I
overwhelming.
told my wife the other day, I don't have to write a new
Mm,
thing for the rest of my existence. It's all right there. I have every single story I ever need to write. So
mm.
unfortunately, they take forever to write. So by the
Yeah,
end of when
and
I die, it'll only be 25 novels, but it'll be 25 novels.
and that's a bit too overwhelming for me. It's just looking at this pile of things that you know are great, but you can't express right now because you have to begin somewhere and then keep doing one thing until you eventually end it. And it's it never worked for me trying to start so many things at once. I really just wanted to focus on one thing and finish it until I begin something new, because if I do it mid doing one thing, I will get bored of this one thing and settle for the other thing, and then eventually I get bored of that too. And I I don't
You
have
know
the
what it
best
is?
experiences, but
At the end of the day,
tell me.
it's schedule management. So
Yes, 100%.
if I say I'm spending the next 6 months on this novel, I'm gonna write the
Mm,
living shit out of it for the next 6 months. I'm not doing anything else when I wake up in the morning. It's what I pull up on my computer and it's what I work on until I'm done.
mm,
If something tickles my fancy on Reddit, I might do a piece of flash fiction. If somebody wants to pay me to write some short fiction, I will definitely stop and I'll write the short fiction and whatnot. If I
mm,
see something that I have that needs to go to a magazine, I'll write it. But for that duration of time, I work on that novel. And if I don't finish it at the end of that time, I'm still done. Because there's a reason that I wasn't able to achieve the goal that I had set for myself. Because really, you can
mm.
honestly write 1,000 words a day. You could finish a novel in 60 days if you really, really dedicate yourself to
Yeah,
it.
if you
It's
really
not
were
that
into
hard.
it, you probably could.
You could really do it. I mean, if you're going to be sloppy and you're going to have to do a second rewrite, you could do a novel in 2 months. But I mean, in terms of you cut it off and then you start whatever project you have lined up next. You know what I mean? Or you spend 6 months
Mm,
working on short fiction and you start working on those flash pieces and make them bigger, because everything is
mm,
like small at one point, right? You start with a paragraph and you're like, I need to work on that and make it bigger, but everything's already character oriented and set in a scene, so it's really easy to
mm.
expand upon. So it's not like you're getting bored with something. You're just really hard on yourself about when you're supposed to be done with something and what done
Yeah,
means.
yeah, I understand. It's it's
It's a
probably
German mentality, dude.
it's a German mentality, exactly. It's still not the easiest thing to do, of course. It's really it's got a lot to do with not just willpower, but also committing to a schedule that has to remain for at least a
The rest
certain
of your
amount of
life.
time. And yeah,
The rest of your
yeah,
life. You
perhaps the
can't
rest
have
of
a
your life if you want to
relationship
do
with
it.
something like you do. You love your story a lot. For
Oh yeah.
me, it's like, am I doing a good enough job to tell the story that I want? I pass it off to a reader. They say, damn, this thing sucked. I'm like, okay, I messed up. And then I have to put it back on the
I
schedule. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't sell
yeah.
this. Who wants to buy it?
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's still good if you do it for yourself. That's also, I went into Neon Red knowing and really wanting myself to realize I'm doing this for myself. I have
It's
this
interesting.
little notebook where I just wrote ideas that I will eventually implement into the series, or I have already done so. And the very first thing that I put on the very first page was, keep in mind that you do this for yourself. If no one buys it, if no one acknowledges it, that's fine. You just wanted to get it out of your head. That's what I meant with like making stories since I was a child. I've done, I think, 20, almost 25 stories that I've completed just thinking about them as a child, because I liked having these stories. I liked experiencing these stories. And Nearweb was the first time that I actually tried to commit to writing it down. So this mentality of you do it for yourself always really stuck with me, because in the end, yes, it is just for myself. It is just so I can feel good about having this idea out of my head and realized.
But that tickle, though, when somebody says, damn, the hell's
Yeah,
wrong with you?
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that thing where you've just affected somebody's life and they've said, man,
Yes,
that's fantastic. And I want to read more. That thing
yes.
also gets added to it. Yeah, I mean, it might feel like you're writing for that person, but you're not. You're writing for that feeling because you're fulfilling
Mm.
something within yourself that, I mean, it's kind of masturbatory in a way. I mean, you're giving it to yourself.
I mean, but it's not that bad, I think. I've recently acquired a beta reader who has read the first part and is currently reading the second part a bit
Huh?
slower than my editor. I I have a buffer for my editor and I have a buffer for my beta reader. um, and I always send him a chapter like every week or so, and he's less critical than my editor, specifically less critical, because my editor always goes into very technical stuff because he knows a lot of technical stuff, and the beta reader always goes like, this is great, this is crazy, it's so exciting to see, I'm so happy this book will become so great. And it's just good to become to get this kind of just this enthusiasm that you yourself have. You see it reflected in this person, and yes, this is exactly the kind of response that I want to get. If it's that's that there's that
Hold
one
on.
sentence I read.
Did you say that
Yeah, yeah, no
you're
problem.
still enthusiastic about your work? Something is
Oh,
wrong.
yes,
You're
I
not
haven't
supposed to.
been ruined completely
Yeah.
yet.
I hate everything I'm working on. Everything.
It'll come eventually.
I
I
can't. In
will
fact, I
enjoy
guess
myself until then.
it gets to a point where I can't wait to be done. Like, oh my God, I'm not doing this
Mm,
again. No, I'm done. I'm finished. And then a year later, I'm working the project again. I don't
I
know. I
have,
like it, man. I really enjoyed talking with you too. We just
thank you.
managed to make it to an hour.
Same. Yeah, just about. Just one thing that I would like to maybe add to the previous statement,
Please,
because I
absolutely.
read that on the Reddit writing as well. There was that one kind of idea that was broken down into your beta readers tell you if it works, like if the story in itself is readable and if they want to read it. Your editors tell you if it's good, or the people that actually criticize you on a professional level, they tell you if it's good. And the people that actually read it, beta reader style, they tell you if it just works. And that's a great way of seeing it, because that way you don't get too over your head knowing that, oh, he said it was great, it must be amazing, it must be a masterpiece. No, there are still people that will tell you that it's shit, and that's great, because that way you can actually make it good.
You know what it is for me? David, Michelangelo's David, the idea that
Yes.
that master who spent his
Mm,
entire life carving marble, his
mm,
idea was that he would chip away and find whatever was underneath there, right? And at
mm.
the end of his life, I don't know when he did David. Let's just go ahead and imagine it was at the end of his life. At the end of his life, when he did David, that appeared, this magnificent piece of art. And he didn't even have to try. You know what I mean? He just chip, 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 and there's David. I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
kind of
so
what,
impressive.
right? But I think at the end of the day, it's not anything more than a trick. The artistry, the desire to tell the story is in your soul. But the finger
Mm.
tapping on the keyboard and the actual performing of it and making it something golden, I think that can be wrote if you work on it like you do, as much as you possibly can, and keep to a
Exactly.
schedule and maintain 750 words a day. Mine's really low. It's only 350. I'm cool with myself. You do a
It's
page.
different for everyone.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, this is kind of my set thing that I like to achieve, but my real world goal is one. That has been the reason that I have been able to commit to this streak of writing every day. If I just write one word, I count it as, yes, you've
Hell yeah.
written that day.
Yeah.
And it never just stays one word. It's mostly, like I said, around the 750 mark, but I am content if I just wrote one word. It's the lowest possible denominator.
When you're editing, it's hard to even say if you wrote a word. I mean, you're taking stuff out so
Yeah,
much.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, but sometimes you write, you actually delete more words than you write, and you look at it and you're like, oh, minus 200 words.
I
That
know.
fucking sucks. But
I've done that. Yeah,
in
absolutely.
it's work, it's effort. You put that in, and you get something better out. It is writing nonetheless, if you ask me.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I mean, with anonymity in place, what do you want people to know about where they can find you on the World Wide Web today?
Yes,
I
yes.
do
Okay.
recommend that you let them know about Reddit as well, so they can at least get, you know, familiar with you there or
Of
something.
course.
Yeah, it'd be cool, right? That's a
Of
good place to
course.
follow people.
So the places that I can currently be found are definitely my Instagram, as I've previously mentioned, instagram.com/mirage literature. That's mirage like the wonder, like the miracle. And
Oh, and not to interrupt you, but one of the coolest things about having invited you on this podcast before even looking at your username, because I
mhm.
never look at anybody's username, my other podcast, which I've merged into this one, was called Mirage. I think that's totally cool.
Really,
That yeah, I think that's so.
really,
It was a
they
podcast that
need
I
to have
did.
me.
Well, I mean, it was a podcast about authors. It was about famous speculative authors and how they maintained their career and how they became famous, what they did with their works or whatever. I've kind of
Mm,
molded it into this one, so I only do Origin now. But I thought that was pretty damn
mm.
cool that your name is Mirage on Reddit, and I had used Mirage for my
Yes,
podcast.
exactly. So Mirage Literature on Instagram, that's my most frequented place because I post excerpts there. I've just announced the schedule that I will keep doing excerpts on a weekly basis. Then I have my Reddit, which is Mirage_Gabriel, which is just like my presence on the place. Sometimes I post something. And lastly, mirageliterature.com, which is currently in a bit of a I need to redo it state, but by probably tomorrow I will have gotten it back on place. So these are the three places that you can find me. I'd suggest going on my Instagram first and then checking out my website. And if you like the things that you see, there are links that you can follow to find the book that may change your life.